in-app advertising revisited in the new world. Sharing the session, we have with us Nishant Malik, Director Sales, MAAS Platform, and the panelists. We have Urmesh Chandra, Head Digital Marketing Policy Bazaar, Avinash Tiwary, Head of Digital North, Havas Media, Priyang Agarwal, Director, Growth Marketing and Partnerships, Tata IMG, and Tanushree Radhakrishnan, Head Biddable, GroupM Nexus.
So thanks guys for joining. I know this is a last panel discussion, so we'll try to make it interesting. And we've got our fellow panelists over here, so let's make it informative for everyone. So today we'll be discussing about in-app advertising redefined in the new world. If you have to actually look at the new world today, look at where we have come from the last 1 year to now. Things have completely shifted. People are moving out. People are traveling like crazy. We have already seen the videos coming in from Terminal 3. We have been into that news lately, and things have been changing completely. And the trends also along with that in the in-app advertising ecosystem is completely changing. So I think what we'll do is we'll probably start off with the first question, which is around the headwinds and tailwinds that we are seeing within the in-app advertising ecosystem, how the things are changing, what sort of industry verticals are probably shaping up based upon the growth. So probably Urmesh, would you like to start off, and especially with JFM being one of the top quarters for you from the fintech and the BFSI landscape?
Thanks, Nishant. According to me, I think in the previous year, the best thing that has happened in the digital landscape was the growth of fintechs. In fintechs, I would say we keep paytech as one, wealth tech as one, and then the rest of them are there. We've seen how Zerodha grow, and all of that has grown. We've seen how millennials have come up on the investment side of the things, and the numbers, I think everyone has seen that how those numbers has grown, and the first 3 months of this financial year was the biggest number that has got posted on the RBI website also. Apart from that, crypto story, everybody knows what has happened there. Plus to it, I think another trend was, to my favorite also, the social influencers, the OTTs, how that has grown. And I think all in all, everything was on the positive side only, and very less was on the negative side. Including e-com, where food delivery, retail, fashion, everything has kind of taken up the growth by leaps and bounds. But yeah, my favorite again remains to the InsurTech, to which I belong to, which has absolutely grown leaps and bounds during the COVID time, because of the sheer nature of the product, the nature of the work that we do, the product that we work for is saving lives at the time when it is required the most. Yeah.
Right. So, Avinash, anything would you like to add up to that? Any trends that you're seeing?
Sure. So I think rightly said that actually there's no negative that we've seen, and specifically when we're talking about in-app, if you really look our lives, we're so much dependent on apps daily by anything that you pick up, whether it's entertainment, utilities, medical facilities, everything. So automatically, if the consumers are using on the app, the usage is increasing, the chances of advertising is growing up. Definitely there is not a negative, I would say. Maybe there's a challenge that is increasing because of the trackability. From an investment point of, from a marketer that you look at, you would always expect that what you're putting up, you're getting that value to it. Now that has also got into a positive sense of it. Why? Because when you do it on web, there are still chances of fraudulity that is there. In app, it's much less. The viewability is much higher. Anything that you look from the app, because the transparency is much higher there. So if you look at it from an overall perspective for the last year, I think we've been going up and up, and it's going to go up. COVID, obviously, there's two things bad happened, but from an advertising perspective, quite a few categories have gone up. The reliance towards the apps have gone up. There's a very interesting point if you look at, and I'm sure the app owners would have realized the numbers have gone really, really up. The reason is not, it's actually tier 2, 3. And the majority of percentage, if you look at from the app perspective, it's actually 18 to 34. What we've seen is from 34 to 45 has gone up. And that's a fact of it. If I really look at my father, who's not really mobile friendly, has started to order medicines. That's actually a change.
Right.
So that's a very interesting that you would say, if the consumer are increasing, you actually have a lot of advertising opportunities to do.
No, you rightly mentioned, I think especially the point that you made about the user segments changing, so that the behavior change that we're seeing over the last 1 year, 2 years. I think that's quite interesting. Priyang, anything from your side, especially from the 1mg lens, and probably anything that you like to say?
Yeah, I think Umesh and Avinash has said very valid points, and we are also seeing with more of pandemic, COVID, these things have made customers to bring or I would say shift the buying behavior modes towards the digital side. Having said that, I always feel there will be a very balance, there will be a very stable balance between the offline and online. Both will stay. There will be a good synchronous sync between the two. What we call it as an omni-channel strategy will definitely exist. But yeah, from a user perspective, now user is becoming more and more evolved, more and more educated towards the digital technologies. And even the cohort which is considered to be elders in our family are also very much comfortable now in ordering from app or doing some social media stuff, seeing the ads. So all those things are shaping up in this particular era.
Right. So Tanushree, anything from your side that you like to probably sum up on this particular question?
So I'll just go back to that, memes which were doing the rounds, right? So in terms of COVID has done what no CDO, CTO could do for our industry. So I guess that's the reality of our lives. We tried changing so much, but that did not happen. But COVID happens, and that's a paradigm shift that we saw in this industry. And we saw growth from uncharted territories, like what you mentioned right here. We saw older generations starting to use e-com, people who wanted to touch and feel products, really being comfortable with the platforms per se, or tier 2 markets. So all of these were things we did not really look forward to at any given point in time, or we've not really chalked out that for the last, let's say, the next 10, 2 decades or so. So
Absolutely.
yes, I mean, it's phenomenal growth that I would say has been attributed because of COVID.
Look, rightly mentioned, like, especially with the user behavior which is changing, and
I just wanted to ask you one thing. Did your, during the COVID times, was paracetamol was the highest selling drug on the platform as well?
Nice one, nice one. Dolo, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I was just saying about the user behavior, changing. So just from the biddable lens now, the question to you, Tanushree, is that, how you're seeing user demographics, segments changing, and how, what sort of right strategy probably the advertisers should look into to especially tap into those users with the growth that is already happening. Like we're seeing in-app advertising growing at almost 20% CAGR globally, and India obviously fueling that. So, from the biddable lens, what would you like to say on that?
So see, I would say that advertising in general mirrors the consumer sentiments, right? Now, if we've seen such stupendous growth across these verticals, whether it's social, entertainment, gaming, fitness, these were all things or platforms that we saw really pick up. And that's exactly been the same as far as advertising is concerned as well. From a user segment, I would say it's more verticalized approach that we definitely saw. And of course, the whole fact that, segmentation parameters changed for us. Time spent, when we would normally look at, some minutes and all, it changed to hours. So I guess, people were consuming more data, more content. So the thresholds changed.
Right.
That was a huge shift that we saw.
Interesting. I think also everyone talks about, when we're talking about in-app advertising, that, how to reach out to probably some of the tier 2 audiences also, and some of the tier 3, tier 2 audiences, rural audiences. And I think one question which everyone is asking and trying to address is that how do you reach out to next 100 million shoppers? So probably, Urmesh, anything would you like to say on that? What sort of strategy probably from your perspective will be important for the fellow advertisers?
So, yes, we are poised with growth coming from the InsurTech side. And as the company that I work for, this is the most aggressive user acquisition that I have also done in my life. I think there are 2-3 key things that I have realized during my stint here. Is that the first and foremost is that the product needs to be hero. If you do not have a product that is not solving a real world problem or is not related to a real world trend, probably you should not be looking for growth.
Right.
Along with that, then probably, so I'll give you an example also. The second thing that I would like to mention here is awareness, if the next level growth is required. So the example here is, most of the Indians have, is connected, so probably, which is, the fact is about 76%, right, is connected to internet right now. Now, in that 76%, all of us are saying that, in digital investments have increased, digital payments have increased, there's wealth tech, there's pay tech, there's whatever, X, Y, Z, right? But there is a whole lot of people who still do not know how to do that. There is a whole lot of people who have money, but still do not know how to do an SIP or to start a mutual fund. You have Grow, you have Zero, you have whatever, but then people do not know. What do? I think education is required. Now from that education, it is awareness/education that you have to tell them the positives about it. And then I think third thing is the big data that you are sitting on. By virtue of the data that you have collected in whatever industry that you are in, from that data you would know that what is the likelihood or probability of a person converting for you and get that new acquisition for you, right? So the idea of saying all of this is that go fish where the fish is, right? Rather than just putting your dundee inside a pond and then waiting for the fish to happen, it'll never happen, right?
Rightly mentioned. I think especially looking at the right sort of media mix, maybe from that perspective also we can look at that okay, what will be the right sort of strategy to reach out to those users. My next question, Avinash, to you is around what should be the right media strategy that we should be actually addressing when we are talking about from the media planning perspective, especially for our advertisers.
Sure. So I was just, I wanted to add also a point to it. So I think when we talk about the markets that we're trying to reach where the numbers are really high, it's the most toughest part. It's actually not easy. When we talk datas are there, but that data is converting into numbers. It looks very fancy when it comes to talking on numbers, but when you actually get into the reality, it's very difficult. And I think it could be a different point for me, and the number of times that I speak about, I think we all say that data is the currency, but how accurate is the data? That's actually, if you really drill down to your campaigns or your marketing stats to it, you would realize that I don't know if the numbers are really converting to the best efforts. So if you say that, for example, this cookieless, before panel that we were discussing about the cookieless environment, I think even with the cookies, if I really talk about all those remarketing that we do, it's actually good for the apps, but when it comes to advertising campaigns, it doesn't give you that much of difference as in the numbers. For example, it could have been a 2% conversion. With that data, it had become 2.5. A 0.5 from a larger number could be big, but from a smaller, it's not really giving that dent that you would actually expect on, so that you invest so much of money on a cookie data. And when I say data, obviously a cookie data or a first-party data are definitely rich. So when it comes to a marketing or a media mix that we look at, and if I have to really go to a tier 3 and a 4 market, it is not just digital that's going to evolve. So the points that mentioned about, digital has grown, but I think it has to be a 360 approach. There's so many places from an angle of just doing an app advertising or just doing a Facebook or a Google, it's not going to work out. You might get numbers from an impression reach, but the goal gets off the track. So how do you make sure when and that there are scenarios in reality that we get. For example, there are brands who are looking at targeting the auto alas. They're looking at targeting a small shops, which channels, which possible, like only Facebook can do wonders for you. For example, I remember the time of TikTok, it was actually driving numbers, but unfortunately they went off. But let's look at YouTube and all that. So all of that mix is important. There are times when I still say that flyers also still works, but it has to be very cohesively done so that it is all connected to all of the media mix that we are trying to do. So again, it depends on the budget also. You can't really look at TV as standalone. All of that, and that we do it.
The right diversification maybe, and also looking beyond some of the traditional channels that,
Exactly.
even with our digital space.
Exactly. So that's very important. And again, from a trackability, that is very important. All of that you're able to track. We've done a lot of campaigns which comes from offline. How do we track that digitally? If we start doing that, if we start hitting that, I'm sure we get a better approach of media mix that we can drive through.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And like with media mix, we have been talking about the right sort of audiences that we need to reach out to, the right sort of media mix. I think the other very important aspect of in-app advertising is also attribution, which everyone talks about. And I think that is one industry-wide challenge which everyone is trying to address and probably reach out to the right sort of model which actually works from the attribution perspective. Priyang, the next question to you is, around attribution only, like especially from the 1mg lens and say probably from the overall e-commerce ecosystem. I think that is very important to probably address that. Anything from your side on that?
Yeah, sure. I think very tough question. So attribution is no doubt a very big challenge for the marketeers. And we don't have, as far as I know, we don't have any very foolproof way out if we can attribute all the channels very perfectly. See, there are tips and tricks that we apply to the organizations, which I can share. See, what I do is that let's segregate the channels. There are certain brand channels for which attribution is not possible or least possible. And there are channels for which the attribution is possible. Let's divide those particular channels. The brand channels like TV, print, they're very difficult. When you talk about the digital channels, many of the brands or almost all the brands are using 1 or 2 MMPs for that. But still there are problems for that. And there are a lot of models, last click 7 days, last click 14 days. What should be the attribution window? Sometimes, we are being pushed that please increase the attribution window because the attribution is being lost. And a lot of other activities are also going into digital, like eating up the attributions and all those things. So I think what I feel and which every brand should do is that one should always develop its own way of tracking. It's very important. Right. I think here technology plays a very important role. The journey from outside, that is any of the ad from your own environment, when you are clicking an ad and coming to your own environment, the parameters that you are passing should be definitely be tracked back in a more robust manner. That this particular thing one brand should definitely develop. And also try to have more ways of tracking. One of the ways of tracking can be a coupon code. For example, if I'm running a campaign on Facebook and if I'm going up with a coupon code of FB10, then that particular coupon code will definitely be attributed.
This becomes very important especially from the transactional apps or e-commerce lens. I think that is quite important.
Definitely. So I think high and robust use of technology plus other little bit hacks of tracking along with the usual way of MMP tracking together, you can get a fair idea of the attribution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, please.
I think attribution, again, very, very important when it comes to the basic hygiene that we at times miss out is we're not really aware of what kind of attribution model we are trying to use. I think not to really put a judgment to that point of it, but that's a very basic because you missed out questioning yourself. Are you looking at first click? Are you looking at last click? Are you looking at time decay? Are you looking at position? You basically miss that. So what happens is the Facebook is actually working on a different attribution model. Your Google is working on a different attribution. Your server is working on a different. Finally, what happens at the end of the day, you are actually clueless about the discrepancy percentage, and we miss that out. That's it's a mess.
I think that basically the internal platforms become very important. Your CRMs, your BIs. I think that is where you need to probably sort out things, and probably the role of MMP also is quite important. So what sort of, are you looking at VTAs? Are you looking at CTAs? I think that is, I feel, quite important. So yeah, I think with that, the next set of question for everyone is around, I think the other industry challenge that we usually see across, while within the in-app advertising is ad fraud. I think the previous panel also discussed about the same thing about brand safety. So I think that is obviously one big problem probably that industry faces. So any thoughts around that? Maybe quick pointers. Probably Urmesh, if you would like to say.
From a brand safety point of view, I think there is no set pattern that everybody can follow and would make sure that this is how you can save the brand. From my industry point of view, and that is what I can share, I think there are 2-3 things that you have to make sure that is to be done right. One is that work with good people, work with Apple probably.
Thanks for that.
Then what we do from a brand safety point of view is, and it is very, very related to your brand, that what brand you are representing. Probably advertising on sites which are related to kids might not be correct for you, but it might be very, very relevant for others. So you need to define that as to what is the right thing for you. Post which, I think the utmost important thing is monitoring. If you can do real-time monitoring, it's not that you've just automated it and somebody will just take care of it and you are through with it. I think somebody needs to do a real-time monitoring of the thing, that where the ad is getting served, right? Why it is happening, whether you're getting that buck out of the thing that you've invested. Post which, you should invest in good tools, because you can only go further if somebody has given you that foundation, and then probably you can ride onto that.
Right.
So a mix of all these 4-5 things, I think 80-90% will cover you from that.
Makes sense. Tanushree, anything from your side, especially on the biddable side also, I feel at times people talk about brand safety guidelines, and also anything from your side.
So, while we're talking about brand safety, I think, to consider any kind of impression as authentic, right? I mean, it needs to be not just brand safe, but also by a real person,
right.
Be viewable.
Absolutely.
So, the whole, the BAV concept, as we call it, right? So, that's definitely critical. And, further to what Urmesh already mentioned, right? I think, those are the attributes, right? I mean, how do you, can you look through the entire channel strategy that one has? Can we take into consideration that we work with the partners directly? Because you know exactly who you're working with, where is the inventory being burnt. So you know who you are reaching out to, who your audience is. That gives you more visibility. If you were to go slightly more further, I think the reason why we say, Biddable is slightly more powerful is because apart from knowing where your audience is, what it is, it also gives you a lot of control. Right, so because you know exactly what's happening, and you have that flexibility in terms of optimizing it in a way which probably other mediums do not offer. And that's what's the game changer for us in terms of ensuring that the delivery is optimized, it is brand safe, it is everything. So, other piece that we also talk about is in terms of how do we look at pre-bid strategies. So that you're not doing a course correction, but you know exactly what's happening to your inventory even before it's served. So these are smaller things which definitely help us ensure that it's all the BAV factors are being taken into consideration.
Makes sense, absolutely. Priyang, anything from your side?
So keeping it short, I think brand safety is very, very important for any of the brand, right? If I just bullet points, number one is brand should be very cautious while selecting any partner. Do the due diligence absolutely flawlessly, so that later on you should not repent. Second, finalize your business models very stringently on what model you want to work. CPC, CPS, CPV, whatever. Whatever is your objective, work on your proper business model. Third is do your the tech stack implemented robustly, so that you can track back all the things perfectly.
The role of technology.
Definitely, role of technology. And last but not the least is the data analysis. So, if anything fishy is happening and if you have a good amount of data, you can definitely benchmark that particular data with other channels.
So probably the smart team to do the analysis and all.
Right, the analytics team to do all these things. So I think if you do all these 4 things, probability of getting a fishy something definitely gets reduced.
Absolutely. Avinash, what about you?
I don't know, I always have a very different point of view at times when it comes. So brand safety, I say I've seen a lot of people really get scared of it. I still say live with it. The point is,
Rightly
we're
mentioned.
living in a life. There are so many good people, bad people, but we are still living it, right? So it's the same scenario there. From a brand safety point of view, important to know how is it actually being done. We need to rely on tools. There are so many in this ecosystem. I think technically, if I really talk about how many are actually using brand safety, it's going to be not more than 20%. There's still 80% who still believes that it's an extra cost. Don't want to get there. The point is because it gets too much of data to actually garner, and it's very difficult. That's a fact of it. It's actually lot of manual data that you have to get into it. The system does its job, but you really need to get into that deep to inside, and it's actually a tedious one. The second point to it is one point very well mentioned. Just don't rely on any partners. I think what important is, what we miss out in general life is, we forget that we are also a consumer. So when you're actually using a lot of partners, you think like a consumer that if this category has to be there, and what are the kind of scenarios environment. For example, gaming as a category, very difficult, but if you start playing and just download for a time wheel to understand that, is that really throwing me some kind of a data or an ad which is not really relevant for me to be in that environment? You can actually figure that out. So that's something which is more on the realistic figure that we have to actually get into it. And most importantly, please let's know how is this brand safety calculated. A lot of time we just know that it's a brand safety. Okay, so we have to be safe. The numbers are 94%. It is wrong or right. But why is it 94%? What was actually went wrong?
Correct.
Was that really an ad which was there? Or for example, I'll say in a lot of news category, you would say a lot of sentiments which is towards a plane crash. Or maybe something or topic which is not really negative, but it is termed as negative. You have to actually get into those keywords to understand that is it really negative for me or not.
So probably differentiating with ad fraud and probably brand safety and understanding that from the data perspective.
Exactly.
That is
Exactly.
important.
So just another addition would be, like in terms of further to the point that he mentioned. So having your own inclusion and exclusion list, right? Because
Exactly.
that's what will actually help us identify, because what is brand safe for one brand might be very different for another. And that is something which every single brand needs to do on their own. In terms of that, data control needs to happen.
I
at their
think
end.
good data, bad data. Good data to probably analyze and optimize, and bad data, of course, to weed out fraud.
Because those are technically tools and they're working on a default keywords which are actually looking at. It's actually looking at. From that angle, it's very difficult to say that it is bad or good for me.
Also, just wanted to add what Priyang has also mentioned, that probably from a marketer point of view, that we should start working on deeper funnel actions, which is further,
Exactly.
closer to a purchase action rather than very top or something like that. Right. Because that is where you can actually see the ROIs coming back, and the person who's working for you would also be, conscious of the fact that paisa nahi aayega bhai agar kaam nahi hoga.
Correct. So cool. I think thanks for that. So the last section is going to be an interesting one. We'll do a rapid fire round. Of course, no coffee hampers, but yeah, we do have a few drinks outside after the discussion. I think 2 questions for everyone. First one is one buzzword, which we have been hearing, which you all love. One which you guys are tired of hearing all the time. And the second question is, which is your favorite app? Of course, you cannot answer Policybazaar, you cannot answer 1MG, or neither you can answer any of your top advertisers. So probably Avinash, why don't you start that?
So I think a favorite could be the money, the budget that you get. I think that's from a professional aspect. The word that we would really not like to hear is the sales. It's something that everyone is active after us with respect to number, which is conversion technically. So
Right.
whenever you get to hear this word, oh my God, it's going to be the toughest one. So that's, from an app perspective, I think I would actually give it to WhatsApp. The reason is it's actually a very utility driven. If you really use it smartly, I think they're actually working towards these safeties and all. So I think from an app perspective, and I think one app, it's very difficult because in every category you have a different app
Absolutely.
to look at. For example, if it's about 1 mg, it is definitely because then you're looking from that category angle. So one is difficult, but I'm sure from every entertainment could be Netflix. So multiple, but yes, I would actually give a point to WhatsApp because actually it's interesting to get your family together. So that works out.
Togetherness, interesting. Priyang.
So I think buzzword would be two, and it is like starting with the letter P, programmatic and personalization. I think we are hearing these things in all the marketing conclaves, marketing discussions, and all those things. So I think these are the buzzwords. And if you talk about the app, I look at it differently because only having a good UI UX is not sufficient for having a good app. The overall experience that you are providing to a
Correct.
customer is important. So I would rate like MX as a very good experience from an app perspective also and from a customer support perspective. Although they are very stringent while delivering a credit card, but once you are a customer, they will care you forever.
Interesting. Tanushree, what about you?
So I would say the buzzword that I like is data.
Right.
For the sheer fact that it's black and white. You know, you can't have two ways about it. The one that I hate right now is cookieless future. I think we've been hearing about it for so long and it just keeps getting postponed forever and ever. So now I just really want to be there to experience what it's like. App, if I were to say on the basis of the time spent, it should actually be Microsoft Teams. But looking at what I really like, I think I love Amazon to a large extent.
Okay.
For the ease of use, for the way they use data, and for the fact that I'm shopping forever. So yeah.
Right. So we have already had three categories of app. I think let's wait what Urmesh has to say.
Do you want me to say about the app first? All right. So the likable buzzword is metaverse. I am inquisitive and I just can't wait to see what is going to happen, how it is going to look like, right? And I would be lucky enough to be a part of that journey if it happens in the due course, not like cookieless word. The one that I do not like is automation. If you're in a digital world, then it's a hygiene, right? You need to have it, right? So stop it. The app that I like is YouTube. I have stopped doing Google search, and I call it by myself. I call it Ubel search now.
Right.
So probably for anything you just need to do a YouTube and get the information. It is so fast, and do it at probably 2x takes half of the time as well, right? 2x speed is what I was talking about.
Right. So yeah, thank you so much, guys. I think my favorite app is at the moment is Jio Cinemas. I mean, it's been in the news for all the reasons, but yes, I think that's my favorite one. At least we get to watch the matches. So yeah. Thank you so much, guys. I think it was really interesting, discussing with you all. Just in case if anyone has any questions, please do ask. Otherwise, I think we can end the session.
Perfect.
Cool. I think thank you so much, guys. Thank you. Thanks for the session. Thank you.
Thank you.